Hey there, friends. So I have a confession to make. I have an odd fascination with lost media. The thought that something can be lost forever and sometimes resurface years, if not decades later, is just fascinating to me. But I've noticed there isn't much gaming lost media content on YouTube. So in today's video, I'll be covering some games that are considered lost or unplayable for one reason or another. If you like this content, let me know, and if there is enough support, I will turn it into a series. Now, grab a cookie and hot chocolate, sit back, and let's explore some lost gaming media. Before Crisis, Final Fantasy VII. Before Crisis was released in 2004 for Japanese mobile phones as part of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII meta-series. It puts us in the shoes of the Turks, the suit-wearing covert operatives who were antagonists in the original game. So instead of fighting against them, we get to be them. The game was a massive success in Japan, registering 200,000 users on its first day and being accessed 1.6 million times. It became Square Enix's most successful mobile game at that time, which makes its current status as lost media all the more interesting. So why exactly is Before Crisis considered lost media? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First, the game was released exclusively in Japan through the FOMA 900i series mobile phones. Despite Square Enix announcing plans for a Western release at E3 2006, this release never materialized. According to Keiji Fujita, head of mobile operations at Square Enix, Western mobile phones were technologically inferior to Japanese phones at the time, making a direct port impossible. The departure of Kosei Ito from Square Enix in 2008 was the final nail in the coffin, as there was no one left to manage the localization efforts. Second, the game relied on a client-server architecture. This means essential game data wasn't stored on your phone. It was streamed from Square Enix's servers. When those servers shut down on March 31st, 2018, the game became completely unplayable. Third, mobile phones from that era used proprietary systems that haven't been successfully emulated. Unlike console games that can often be preserved through emulation, Before Crisis exists in a technological limbo that modern systems simply can't access. The game featured real-time action RPG combat where players moved in a side-scrolling manner with 2D graphics. One of its most interesting innovations was the materia generation system, where players could create magical materia by taking photos with their cell phone's camera. The game would analyze the picture's dominant color and create a corresponding materia. Red photos gave you fire materia, blue photos produced blizzard materia, and so on. This kind of real-world integration was revolutionary for 2004. Story-wise, Before Crisis fills in gaps in the Final Fantasy VII timeline. It shows us key events like the Nibelheim incident from the Turks' perspective, the destruction of Coral, and even the pursuit of Zack and Cloud after they escape Nibelheim. The game was released episodically, eventually reaching 25 episodes by April 2006. Square Enix even added a special weapon mode in May 2006, allowing players to hunt a newly introduced Jade weapon throughout the game world. Despite being officially unplayable, fans haven't given up on preserving Before Crisis. Several fan projects have attempted to keep its memory alive. In 2019, a fan remake using RPG Maker was released, offering an approximation of the story and gameplay. Various YouTube channels have uploaded gameplay footage with English translations of the dialogue. Websites like The Lifestream have published comprehensive summaries of the game's story. Unfortunately, though, while these efforts help preserve aspects of Before Crisis, they can't fully recreate the experience of playing the original game with its camera-based materia system and server-based functionality. Darkspore. Released on April 26, 2011, Darkspore was Maxis's attempt to take the creature creation technology from Spore and implement it into an action RPG framework. Instead of evolving through the stages of life, Darkspore put us in command of squads of genetically modified creatures called living weapons that we could customize and upgrade using the familiar Spore creature editor. The game featured squad-based combat where we assembled teams of 3 genetic heroes from a roster of 25 unique characters, with 4 variants each, totaling a whopping 100 different hero options. These heroes were divided into 5 Genesis types: Bio, Cyber, Plasma, Quantum, and Necro, each with their own distinct abilities and appearances. You could play as Ravagers, Sentinels, or Tempests, and team up with up to 3 friends to battle through various alien worlds. Set in a distant future, we learned about the Progenitors, an advanced alien race who were absolute masters of genetic manipulation. One progenitor named Xylan discovered something called eDNA, exponential DNA, which could accelerate evolution dramatically. When eDNA proved unstable and started transforming test subjects into monsters, it was outlawed. But Xylan, convinced he could control eDNA, injected himself and transformed into the Corruptor, the big bad boss of the Darkspore mutants. Players took on the role of one of the last surviving progenitors, awakened from cryosleep after eDNA had been stabilized. The goal was to collect and enhance genetic heroes to battle across 5 alien planets and eventually take down the Corruptor himself. Now for the lost media part, Darkspore has become completely unplayable due to one design decision: always online digital rights management, or DRM. The game required a persistent internet connection to EA's servers even when playing in single-player mode. This meant that when EA eventually shut down those servers, the game would become inoperable, and that's exactly what happened. On March 1st, 2016, approximately 5 years after the game's release, Electronic Arts permanently shut down Darkspore's servers. This action rendered all legally purchased copies of the game, whether physical or digital, completely useless. EA gave players a 3-month notice, announcing it on December 1st, 2015. But the warning signs had been there for years. The game suffered from numerous technical issues that foreshadowed its eventual fate, like game-breaking bugs, connection errors, and frequent server outages. In June 2013, the game was temporarily removed from Steam, leading many to believe EA had abandoned it entirely. Though it was later relisted with EA promising continued support, these issues persisted until the final shutdown. Following the server shutdown, a dedicated community project called Darkspore LS, later renamed to Resurrection Capsule, was launched in December 2018 by a passionate Reddit user. The project aimed to create a private server solution that would bring the game back from digital death. By mid-2019, the team had made some impressive progress. They got the play button working in the game's launcher, gained access to the login screen, and even enabled the hero editor. But here's the challenging part: creating a fully playable offline version of Darkspore has proven incredibly difficult. The single-player campaign and multiplayer functionality have been particularly tough to recreate because so much of the game's core systems were handled server-side. As of now, while progress continues, a fully playable version of Darkspore remains out of reach. Crash Bandicoot Crash Landed. Development on Crash Landed began back in 2009 by Radical Entertainment, the same company who developed Crash of the Titans and Crash Mind Over Mutant. This wasn't going to be just another sequel. Radical was planning a full-on reboot of the Crash Bandicoot franchise with a fresh origin story. They focused primarily on creating versions for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, with plans to port the game to the Wii afterward. Radical Entertainment put about 2 years of work into development before everything came crashing down. No pun intended. While the team had created loads of concept designs, animations, and a solid graphics engine, reports suggest they hadn't made enough tangible gameplay progress when Activision came knocking for a review. Activision was accepting pitches from different development studios, with 2 main contenders. First, Renegade Kid, who created a fully 3D playable tech demo, and video footage of this demo was released years after the project's cancellation. And second, WayForward, who developed a more traditional side-scrolling approach reminiscent of the original PlayStation Crash games. Their pitch was actually built on top of a different canceled game before being repurposed into Galactic Tazball after Crash Landed met its untimely demise. So why did it get canceled? The game met its unfortunate end in February 2010 when Activision, who had acquired Sierra Entertainment and Radical Entertainment during the production of Mind Over Mutant, conducted layoffs at Radical as part of a restructuring plan. The team working on Crash Landed was disbanded, and Radical Entertainment shifted focus to developing Prototype 2 instead. Based on what former developers have said, several factors contributed to the cancellation. The gameplay development was moving slowly despite robust concept work. Activision decided to put their resources into other projects, and previous Crash Bandicoot titles hadn't been selling as well as hoped. But thanks to leaked materials and developer insights, we have a pretty good idea of what Crash Landed would have offered. The gameplay would have featured semi-open world levels with a mix of linear paths and explorable areas. Crash would have been able to craft tools by combining items found in the environment through an invention system. We would have been able to ride wild warthogs, a fun callback to the original game, climb certain walls, and deal with changing weather conditions, including day-night cycles that affected enemy difficulty. There were even plans for mud and tall grass that would affect Crash's movement. Story-wise, the game was meant to be an origin tale, retelling how Crash came to be. After being mutated by Dr. Neo Cortex, Crash would embark on a mission to rescue his fellow Bandicoots from captivity. Unlike our orange hero, these Bandicoots, as they were called in concept art, were not evolved and remained small, defenseless creatures that Crash needed to protect. Dingodile would have served as a major antagonist, harassing the Bandicoots and using his flamethrower against Crash. New enemies included a vicious landshark and a queen of a massive firefly hive. Visually, the game employed a cel-shaded style, giving everything a more cartoony appearance than previous entries in the series. Crash himself was designed with more expressive features, harkening back to his original design in the PlayStation games. Unlike many cancelled games that leave barely a trace behind, however, Crash Landed has left behind a treasure trove of artifacts that have surfaced over the years. We have numerous concept art pieces showing character designs, environments, and gameplay mechanics. There are several unfinished animations of Crash, including movement cycles and attack animations. We've seen screenshots of environment models and character designs, and even a tech demo video showing visual effects. We've even heard some of the background music composed by Gabriel Mann and Rebecca Knobuel of Spiral Mouth, who previously worked on Crash Twinsanity, including a main theme that evoked the golden age of American animation. Perhaps most interestingly, we know that The Zone, a creative agency in Canada, was developing a press kit for the game that would have included a special collector's edition DVD, a map showcasing major locations from Woompa Island, and promotional materials for a planned McDonald's tie-in McWumpa burger. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely curious what a McWumpa burger would have tasted like. And that's a wrap on today's video. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you loved it, and let me know in the comments what other lost gaming media you'd like me to cover next. See ya!